The email arrives at 5:47 a.m., not to your inbox, to a distribution list that includes the finance minister of a country you have never visited. The subject line is 4 words. The attachment is 214 pages. Somewhere on page 89, there is a number, $4.3 billion, and that number is attached to your name. You do not remember how you got here. You remember the lobby. The company has a name that means nothing to most people and everything to the global economy. It operates in 43 countries. It pumps 3.2 million barrels per day. Its annual revenue is larger than the GDP of Portugal. It has a legal team bigger than most law firms, a trading desk that moves markets before markets open, and a government affairs division that some governments quietly consult before drafting policy. You are not yet any of these things. You are 24. You have a degree in petroleum engineering from a university that recruiters visit in October. You have passed 4 rounds of interviews. You have accepted a salary of $87,000 plus relocation. You are about to enter a system. You do not yet understand what a system is. They send you to West Texas, not Houston, not the Glass Tower, West Texas, a town with 1 traffic light and a 24-hour diner that smells like diesel and powdered eggs. Your apartment has thin walls. The sky is enormous and indifferent. Your job is to be on site during drilling operations. You arrive at 4:30 a.m. You wear a hard hat. You carry a tablet that logs pressure readings every 15 minutes. You are one of 6 engineers rotating a 24-hour watch on a well that cost $11 million to drill and will either produce or it won't. The tool pusher on your crew has been doing this for 31 years. He knows more than you. He will never be promoted past where he is. This fact sits between you without either of you acknowledging it. When the well kicks, when the pressure spikes at 2:18 a.m. and you have to make a call, you make it. It is the right call. You do not celebrate. You log the event and go back to your numbers. 3 months later, you receive a performance review that uses the phrase, technically sound, analytically composed. You file it away. You believe this is a beginning. It is. Houston is the transition. You are 27. You have spent 2 years in the field and 1 year in a regional office. Now you are in a 40-story building off Westheimer, in a division called Corporate Planning and Portfolio Strategy. Your salary is $134,000. You have an office with a window. You have a Bloomberg terminal and access to a proprietary reserves database that is classified above the level of most government analysts. Your job is to model the future. Every quarter you build scenarios. $50 oil, $80 oil, $120 oil. You run sensitivity analyses on fields in Angola and the Permian and the North Sea. You calculate when it becomes economically rational to walk away from a $3.4 billion project. You learn that abandonment is not failure inside this organization. It is capital discipline. The first time you sit in a senior VP's conference room, you notice 3 things. The chairs cost more than your first car. The whiteboard has a number on it, $2.1 billion, that no one explains. And when the SVP speaks, the room does not just listen. It recalibrates. You go home that evening. Your partner asks how your day was. You say fine. There are 7 missed calls on your personal phone. You return 2 of them. They move you to Switzerland. The trading desk in Geneva operates in a building with no signage on the exterior. The people inside trade crude, natural gas, refined products, and derivatives against them. They trade in real time across time zones against counterparties that include national oil companies, hedge funds, and sovereign traders who have been in the game since before you were born. You are 31. Your compensation package, base, bonus, carried interest in a commodity fund, is $740,000 in a strong year. You learn something in Geneva that they cannot teach you in Texas. Price is not discovered. It is made, not by any single actor, by the aggregate of calls made at specific hours on specific platforms by people with specific information sets. The market is not a mechanism. It is a conversation. and access to the right room, the morning call with 4 traders in Houston, London, Singapore, and here determines whether you are speaking or listening. You are learning to speak. You do not think about the tool pusher from West Texas, but occasionally, at 11 p.m., when you are still at your desk and the market in Asia is opening, you think about the diner, the powdered eggs, the enormous sky. You do not know why. You are 38, Vice President Upstream Strategy. Your office is in Canary Wharf on the 34th floor, and on a clear day, you can see 6 miles in every direction, which feels accurate. You oversee a portfolio of assets worth $28 billion. You have 140 people who report through 3 layers below you. You travel 18 weeks per year. You have learned to sleep on planes in 90-minute intervals. The meeting that changes your understanding of the job happens not in London, but in Riyadh, at a private dinner in a building that does not appear on any public map. There are 8 people at the table. 4 of them represent sovereign entities. 2 represent institutional capital. 1 represents a government that is publicly your government's adversary. The conversation is about a gas field in the Eastern Mediterranean. The reserves are disputed. The field straddles a maritime boundary that 2 countries have not agreed on in 40 years. The question someone asks, not you, not yet, is, what do we borrow against it today? And the answer, delivered without pause, without discomfort, is a number. This is the moment your education is complete. Not because you understand the answer, because you understand the question. Because you understand that the field does not need to exist legally to exist financially. Because you understand that the boundary dispute is not an obstacle, it is a negotiating position. And negotiating positions are assets. You fly back to London the next morning. The city looks different. It always looks different after Riyadh. Your daughter has a school recital tonight. You land at 6:15 p.m. The recital ends at 6 p.m. You send flowers. You are 45, Executive Vice President, Global Portfolio. You do not run operations. You do not run trading. You run the logic that decides which operations exist and which trades are worth making. Your decisions shape the capital allocation of an organization that spent $31.4 billion last year and will spend more this year. At this level, the company stops being a company. It becomes a position on the future of energy, a position on which governments will survive their debt loads, a position on whether the energy transition happens in 15 years or 40 years, and how much that uncertainty is worth in optionality value, and who gets to hold the option. There is a day, a Tuesday in November, unremarkable from the outside, when you sit in a call with the company's chief executive, 2 board members, and a representative from a government pension fund managing $890 billion in assets. The topic is a proposed divestment of $6.1 billion in refining assets. You speak for 11 minutes. No slides, no deck, just the numbers in your head and the architecture behind them. When you finish, no one responds immediately. That pause, 4 seconds of silence on a call with people who are collectively responsible for the energy supply of 200 million people, is the only feedback you need. You have not wanted approval for a long time, but you remember when you did. That is the cost. Not the marriage that became a schedule, not the children who know your voice better from voicemails than from dinner, not the friends who stopped calling because the calls were never returned. The cost is simpler than all of that. The cost is that you no longer need anyone in the room to agree with you, and you are not sure, sitting in the silence of that call, whether that is power or something else entirely. You do not leave. This is what no one tells you at level 1, in the field, with the hard hat and the pressure readings. They do not tell you that the system has no exit ramp, not because it locks you in, because after a certain altitude, leaving requires constructing an entirely new identity, and you have not maintained the parts of yourself that would build one. So, you stay. You sit on 2 board advisory committees. You speak at energy conferences where your name appears on a placard. You travel to places that have no names in public conversation. You make decisions that will still be reverberating in commodity markets 15 years from now. The work is still interesting. That is not nothing. On a Sunday in March, You drive past the university where you were recruited. There is an information tent outside the engineering building, recruiters in branded jackets, students in good clothes who are trying to look like they already belong somewhere. You do not stop. You keep driving. Somewhere in Houston, in a 40-story building off Westheimer, a young engineer badges through the lobby for the first time. Her badge is still stiff. Her photo looks nothing like her. She has a master's degree, 3 years of field experience, and a performance review that used the phrase, technically sound. She takes the elevator to the 12th floor, corporate planning. She sits down at a desk with a Bloomberg terminal. She opens the reserves database for the first time. The numbers are enormous. The geography is vast. The logic of the whole thing. Who owns what? Who owes what gets drilled and what gets abandoned, and what gets borrowed against before it legally exists is not yet visible to her. She believes she is beginning a career. She is. She will find out what that means. They always do.